What's going on, everybody? This is Randall Barnes, the founder of HBCU Pulse and host of HBCU Pulse Radio, in the building for another special edition of the show on today, where we are talking about the end of the football season, the storylines around the football season, and everything like that, because this is our last episode on SiriusXM, Channel 142 HBCU for the year. We'll be back in January 2024 now, okay? We coming back. We're going to be bigger and better than ever. A lot of great coverage of everything going on in HBCU life. This is going to be our last episode for the Christmas break, because I got to get a break, because my birthday is on Christmas Day, you know what I mean? So I got to get a little bit of a break. So y'all make sure to show me love, all right? But listen, Ariel is not here on today. She'll be back really soon, but I have my guy Kelly Flicks in the building, HBCU sports analyst and contributor for Laceup Podcast Network and HBCU Redzone. Man, Flicks, how you doing today, man?
What's the big old deals? It's good to be back, man. And, you know, Randall's birthday's coming up, guys, so everybody hit them cash apps, you know, HBCU Post, $, hit them up.
Hey, let's see. You see how he knows it? You know what I mean? Like, that's my boy. You know what I'm saying? $ HBCU Post. I was saying it outro every episode, Flicks. Nobody donated. You know what I'm saying? So maybe they'll show me some love for Christmas. You know what I'm saying? But listen, a lot to cover, a lot to talk about, because I think the biggest storylines of this season was really the coaching situation. You know, of course, Ed Reed coming into the year, we didn't get a chance to really talk about it on HBCU Post Radio, because Flicks, every time we did an episode, we talked about it once. We talked about the expectations for Bethune-Cookman in the SWAC. But every time we did an episode, that Saturday, something happened. That weekend, something happened. So Ariel and I didn't get a chance to cover Ed Reed, but we will talk about him in a second, because we have to talk about the biggest coaching hire in HBCU football. Head coach Chennis Berry, who was the coach of the Benedict College Tigers, he is now the coach of South Carolina State, succeeding legendary head coach Buddy Pough, who was with the Bulldogs for 22 years. Now, Coach Berry, he was the coach of Benedict College, 2 undefeated seasons in conference, won 2 back-to-back SIAC championships, took over a Benedict College program that was 1-9 in 2019 before he came over from Southern University. He was their offensive coordinator, the offensive line coach, and their assistant coach in the SWAC. And Coach Berry has a lot of experience. He's been at Fort Valley, at Howard, at Southern, at North Carolina A&T. So he really deserves this, man. So I got to ask you this, Flicks. Like, what do you think about the hire of Coach Berry at South Carolina State?
Oh, it's an excellent hire. I'd give it an A+. We just saw the passing of the torch from Buddy Pough to Chennis Berry. Before Buddy Pough retired as head football coach, he was still the acting athletic director. This entire decision was a Buddy Pough decision. You know, the BOT, they approved or denied it, but the guy and the candidate that was found was strictly from Buddy Pough. So I think that he really sees something in Coach Chennis Berry. We've seen Coach Chennis Berry build this Benedict program up. He's routed off 20 straight SIAC wins. You know, something like that is something to really talk about. He's dominated during the regular season against non-conference and conference opponents. There has been talk about his stumbles in the Division II playoffs. But to me, this year showed that he has progressed as a coach. In coaching the Division II playoffs, they went head-to-head with Lenore Ryan. They put up a bunch of points. They were able to shoot it out with a team that ended up making it to the semifinals of the Division II playoffs. So to me, all the boxes are checked off with Coach Chennis Berry. He was my top candidate on my HBCU available coaches list, and he was really sought after by numerous colleges. I heard Gardner-Webb was in it. I heard Wofford was in it. We'll talk about Southern was possibly in it. Grambling was possibly in it. A lot of different universities would love to have Coach Chennis Berry on their roster. And I think that's the reason why he was one of the first head coaches picked during not even the off season, at the end of the season.
So just for me, Flicks, here's the thing when it comes to Coach Berry. I think that Coach Berry from Jump Street was the perfect hire. Because at South Carolina State, you know you're looking for someone that can build the program long-term. You have Willie Jeffries that was there for a long time. You have Coach Buddy Pough that was there for 22 seasons. Now you have a Coach Chennis Berry, a young coach that has a bunch of coordinator experience, over 2 decades being a coordinator, an assistant coach, an offensive line coach, all these different things. Like in coaching age, he's young. He has energy. He has a philosophy, 1 and Like, we're not going to worry about the noise. He's a motivator. So when head coach Buddy Pough announced that he was retiring, I was like, man, come on. I don't even do a coaching search. Just ask Coach Berry, hey, you want to come over? How much you want? You know what I'm saying? Like, because at this point, he's the perfect person. I honestly think, and I know this is premature to a point. I understand that because we got to see what he does at South Carolina State. But I think that Coach Chennis Berry can be a legend. I think he can be a legend, the ilk of Buddy Pough, the ilk of Willie Jeffries, and I think we're seeing a coaching legend that is coming forward right in front of our eyes. And my thing is this when it comes to folks that talk about the playoff success, and I understand that because you want to see, okay, how do you compete in out-of-conference games, especially going to the MEAC when your first, 5 games is out of conference because it's only 6 teams that play football. But my thing is this, right? Why are we giving coaches that have never coached before more credence than coaches that have been coaching for 2 decades? Now, Benedict was his first coaching job, and we see what he did there. He took a 1-9 team to 5-5, beat the reigning defending champions in Mouse College, and it was COVID because they won in 2019. I was at that game, and of course, the 2020 season didn't happen, but they were still the champions. They were still a really good team. They made that championship against Albany State. Benedict beat him. So we saw that, and then he went undefeated in back-to-back seasons, and the SIAC was like that. Fort Valley was like that. Tuskegee was like that. Allen was like that. You had so many teams. Albany State was like that because he beat Coach Gabe Gardenia, who was the reigning, defending SIAC champion in 2021. So, for me, I think that this is a perfect hire because based on the work sample size of what we see at a Benedict College that doesn't have a football lineage. They've had winning seasons, but they don't have a football lineage. And they literally went 1-9 to coach them up and develop them to being undefeated. I don't understand why folks don't think that he can do the same thing with the South Carolina State team that has more scholarships, that has a legacy and a lineage of football. Then you got Buddy Pough that's still going to be there, probably calling them, probably going to dinner. They're going to strategize how we going to take over HBCU football. So I just don't understand why it's such a big pushback on him getting this position.
Yes, it's almost like how much program building do I have to do as a coach? I think that Coach Chennis Berry, his background being an offensive line coach, he ensured that his front seven was great. The offensive line is good. The defensive line is very good. He's turned this Benedict program into a powerhouse, something that we've never seen before. And for me, the playoff success, I think that type of stuff gets in the way of actually seeing what a coach really does, right? With these 36 scholarships, he's been able to bring in NFL caliber players. They've had over 16 NFL scouts come to campus between August and November. To me, Benedict has changed because Coach Chennis Berry's mindset has really changed things. The program itself has changed things. I've seen trainers even go, we got to go 1-0 this week. That's the trainer. They're giving out water, and they talking about going 1-0. So to me, if you bring Coach Chennis Berry, he's just like a stick in the arm. He wakes everything up. He energizes things. You've seen his pregame messages. To me, everything else that Chennis Berry does overcompensates the fact that he's lost in the Division II playoffs. And I think that's a statement that's really been getting overblown, these losses in the Division II playoffs, because the Division II playoffs, unlike any other playoff system in America, it's not like the FCS system. It's not like the Power 5 top 4 system that we have in FBS. This is a system with non-automatic qualifiers, a system where you might be playing against or competing against 3 other teams that were in your conference, like the Gulf South. It's a very skewed system that's based on regional rankings and regional games. I think that it's a learning curve involved in actually having a lot of success in the Division II playoffs, and that success doesn't necessarily determine the state of your program, which is a big difference from what I'm hearing from a lot of other people.
I want to ask you this, because we're talking about winning and trying to get that winning momentum. And you have a coach, Buddy Pough, in his 22 years, he's done so many amazing things. Got folks in the NFL, won MEAC championships, won the Celebration Bowl over Jackson State in 2021. Now, South Carolina State, they didn't have that great of a season. They upset Howard, who made the Celebration Bowl, but they didn't have that great of a season. But they had some guys down there. And one of the guys is Juwan Howell. And Juwan Howell, who had that crazy game against Howard, entered the transfer portal. And now we're trying to see if he's willing. Are you going to come back, Juwan Howard? Because we saw Stephen McGee at Jackson State. He said, transfer portal, no, I'm back. You know what I'm saying? So are you going to come back to South Carolina State to be 1-0 under Coach Berry? So I got to ask you, Flicks, at this time, we don't know what's happening with Juwan Howard, but at this moment, do you think that Coach Berry will be able to talk Juwan Howard, star running back, into coming back to South Carolina State?
Hey, I mean, there's a chance. I would say the chance is small, but there's a chance. And, you know, with a guy like Chennis Berry, you just want a chance. Just give me like a 0.5%, because right now, Juwan Howard, he's getting some big offers. Just got an SEC offer from the University of South Carolina. You know, so when the big dogs come calling, a lot of times people just bounce out. And we saw last year with Bayshaw Tootin out of North Carolina A&T. He makes a move to Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech wasn't that good this year, but he was the leading rusher, right? Ended up with 700 yards, around 20 carries. So we could see something similar happen with Hal if he makes the move to South Carolina. But even aside from Hal, I think that Coach Berry may bring in a bunch of guys from his old school, Benedict. There's a guy named Lubert Danielis down there that's getting a lot of attraction from NFL scouts. There's a guy named Jerron Kilpatrick down there getting he's attracting a lot of scouts. So I think that these guys that he still has from Benedict may also come with him. But I am more excited to see what Coach Berry can do with more than 36 scholarships. I think that when you're at the Division II level, sometimes you're pigeonholed to your scholarship amount. And at the FCS level, with that increased number of scholarships, I think you can at least get the guys that you think can help your program now. Because I think in Division II football, when it comes to recruiting, you want to bring in some guys that can play now, or guys that have great size you can develop. I think at this FCS level now, Berry can bring in different level of transfer portal guys, more FBS bounce back guys, more of the guys that were on his short list that he may not have gotten early in December. I think that he'll have a better chance at now because he's at South Carolina State.
So let me ask you this then. So Lubert Danielis, he is a senior. So I would assume because of that COVID year, he might have an additional year of eligibility. I'm not too sure because that whole entire situation is crazy. You got like 35-year-olds playing college football. So it's just real crazy right now. But I got to ask you this. So you think that Lubert might say, I'm going to wait for the NFL and go to South Carolina State? What you think?
I'd take a good look at it if I was him. I'd take a really good look at it. Like you're saying, all these extra years. We saw Bo Nix and Michael Pinks. These guys are like seventh-year guys. They were Jaden Daniels. He's been there for like 8 years. These guys have been there for a while. So if you got some extra eligibility, just go ahead and ask the NCAA. They might give you some. But I think that Danielis could absolutely follow the steps of a guy like Jablonski Green. Absolutely could fit the shoes of some of these incredible linebackers that's also come out of South Carolina State. I think also about Lubert Danielis' draft potential is what position will he play at the next level? You know, if the scouts are telling him this year that you need to move back to back, or you need to go to outside back or something of that matter, then of course, go ahead and take another shot at it. I think that Lubert has had an excellent 2 seasons that have definitely put him up high on my draft prospect list. Now, I think the difference would be going to South Carolina State and getting into position to actually play in the NFL, right? Where do they really see me playing at, right? Do I have to stay at D tackle, you know, and size matters. But any of those other guys at Benedict, I'd definitely take a shot at South Carolina State, right? If you got a chance, go ahead and give Coach Berry a call, and maybe I'll get a look.
One of the matchups I'm really excited to see, Flicks. I'm excited to see 2. I'm excited to see Trey Oliver versus Chennis Berry. I think that's going to be a rivalry that's going to be brewing for years to come. But I'm also interested in seeing Morgan State versus South Carolina State. 2 Division II guys. Everybody talks so crazy about Division II. You have Damon Wilson that came in there, and Morgan State could have made the Celebration Bowl. They beat Richmond, who made the FCS playoffs. Like, they could have beat Akron had it not been for that crazy situation. Ariel and I talked about it on the show when it happened. They could have beaten an FBS program. Morgan State has something brewing up there. Then you have Coach Chennis Berry coming in after his success from the SIAC. That's really CIAA versus SIAC to me, because I'm pretty sure that Coach Berry going to bring in his Benedict College folks. And, you know, Coach Damon Wilson, he got the Bowie folks up there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really interested to see that. But let's talk about this really quickly. What should be the expectation for South Carolina State moving forward? Because we know Jawan Howell, he might or might not come back. We have a few players that are going to be graduating. We got to see who's transferring in. We got to see what the signing day looks like. But what do you think a good first-year expectation is for Chennis Berry in the 2024 season with South Carolina State?
I think, you mentioned Coach Damon Wilson really gives us a good idea of where the barometer should be at. I think that barometer is around 4 wins. We got to keep things real. The MEAC is pretty tough, and the non-conference that the MEAC has to play is also tough. But this schedule that Coach Berry is inheriting, they've already scheduled about 4 or 5 games. They have about 4 non-conference games that are away games, right? Consistent and consecutive away games, games against the Citadel, games against Georgia Southern, some pretty big games, but nonetheless, they won't be at home. So this could be a tough trip for Coach Berry starting up the season. But if we take a look at what Coach Damon Wilson did at Morgan State, he had a tough time. I mean, they were very competitive and played very tough with teams, but they still ended the season around 3 or 4 wins. So to me, I think with Coach Berry, it'll take maybe 1 or 2 years to turn things around at South Carolina State. I think that the draw that South Carolina State has is their ability to develop players and get them to the next level, get them to the league. I think Coach Berry will continue that. But I also feel like Coach Berry could attract some older players to the program that could provide a little bit more instant success than we've seen at other programs. Like I mentioned with Benedict, I think he could also receive some guys from there. I think that there are also some recruits that he lost and couldn't get and bring to Benedict during his time and have been to other schools. I think those transfer portal guys will return. So this year, I think with Coach Berry, a big thing is going to be winning at home and bringing this 1-0 mind state to South Carolina State. And that's going to be first.
Now, listen, Flicks, I'm going to give some predictions, okay? Because I'm looking at the schedule, okay? So August 31st, 2024, they're playing FAMU. All right, September the 7th, they're playing the Citadel. And on September the 14th, they're playing Georgia Southern. And October the 5th, they're playing Tennessee Tech. Those are the games that we know at this point. We'll see about FAMU. I think that's a dream matchup for me. Chennis Berry versus Willie Simmons. Granted, Willie Simmons is there. We hope he is there. But listen, I think that'll be a dream matchup if that were to happen. The Citadel is a win, period. That's a win. That's going to be that big out-of-conference win where we're going to be like, see, 1-1. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we talking about. We 1-1. We're not going to be 1-0, but we 1-1. You know what I'm saying? And Georgia Southern, I don't know. Tennessee Tech, 2-1. We 2-1. Tennessee, we ain't worried about Tennessee Tech because I know Tennessee Tech, they beat Eddie Jordan, Tennessee State at the end of the season. That was wild. I wasn't expecting how they did it. I wasn't expecting that. But Coach Chennis Berry, come on. We 2-1. You know what I'm saying? That's going to be the mindset. 2-1 mindset at this point. Yeah, they got to change the expectation. It can't be 1-0 every week. 2-1. You know what I'm saying? So that's how it's going to finish. Flicks, what you think? You think they're going 2-1?
I like it. I mean, the Citadel isn't a very good program. Definitely see a win there. The Tennessee Tech, I'm a little iffy on them. But that FAMU game, though, that's such a great game for Coach Berry to have. At the beginning of the season, there'll be a lot of talk of the town. FAMU's going to have a new quarterback next year, right? So as good as we've seen FAMU play this year, SWAC Championship, Celebration Bowl appearance, they're going to have a new guy leading the ship next year. And so will South Carolina State. So we'll get a chance to see some new talent out there on the field. And we'll get to see some guys go head-to-head that we haven't ever. Because like you're saying with Coach Berry, I think we've all kind of secretly wanted Benedict to play one of the top SWAC schools to see what they would do. So this is our chance to get to see Coach Berry go against a top SWAC coach. And it's going to be at the top of the season. So a better chance to find it then.
And listen, I'm excited for it, man. We gotta, man. I'm so excited, man. I'm so happy for Coach Berry. I wanted him to stay in the SIAC because I think that he's good for the conference. I know that Fort Valley lost to him 2 straight times. He dominated everyone else as well. But I just think that he was good for the conference because he was one of the reasons why the SIAC got a lot of love this year. But with him gone, there's a prospect that a new power could rise in the SIAC. And I'm not going to say who I'm thinking about, but the team I think is going to take over the SIAC. But I want to hear from you, Flicks. Like, who do you think is going to be the team that's really going to take over? Is it Benedict? Is Benedict going to, still stay at the top? But or is it going to be the field? Like, who you think is going to take over the SIAC now that Coach Berry is gone?
Oh, man, we got some SIAC madness going on right now. I think down at Clark, Atlanta, there's a sleeping giant down there in Atlanta. Coach Teddy Keaton has gotten the keys to the Lambeau, right? It's like a Lambo that has been sitting in the garage for like maybe 5, 10, 20 years.
30,
it's still
30.
Lambo.
It's 30 years. Like, are you going to drive a 1991 Lambo?
Hey, you put the gas in there, put the oil in there, and it still runs. So I think what Coach Teddy Keaton has down there is going to be very exciting. I think it's going to be some explosives going on at the top of the year. Talk about transfer portal news and things like that. But I have been keeping my eye on Albany State. Albany State, Coach Quinn Gray down there, they've been building something that has led them to a SIAC conference championship in year one of Coach Quinn Gray's tenure. Got to watch out for those guys down there. When you see it opening like Benedict not getting in there, and then you see Albany beat Miles, and you go, well, I thought Miles was going to be the next guy up. Well, I think Albany actually has that edge on Miles. I think going into this season, the big three, the new big three is going to be Miles, Fort Valley, and then you got Albany State. You know, I'm not sure if I can put Skiggy in there right now. Transfer portal is doing a number on that offense. But I think that Albany State and what they've been building has really made me want to watch, right? We got Isaiah Knowles coming back at quarterback for them next year. Coach Quinn Gray's going to be able to bring even more of his guys in. He told us during the season that he just didn't have his pieces that he really wanted. And it led to a decent season, right? They went around 6-4. But that conference championship really means something to me. He has kept that championship pedigree at Albany. And I think that a lot of these guys at Albany State still think they're the best team in the SIAC.
Listen, I hear you 1,000%. I think Albany State is going to be a monster when it comes to next season. I think you get Coach Quinn Gray the opportunity to recruit his guys because he had a lot of holdovers from Coach Gabe Gardenia, which is a very run-heavy offense. And they still were running, pretty proficiently. I mean, it wasn't that demonstrative of a passing attack. They were passing more, and we saw that they were passing more. But you look at those stats, they were rushing a lot. But I think that you're going to see him bring in some wide receivers. We might see him try to bring in another quarterback to see what happens after he's going to try to build up that offensive line so he can really get a heavy passing attack going. But my thing is this, and you know how I'm rocking. We got to have Fort Valley up there. You did. Now, you put Fort Valley in the top 3, but a Fort Valley team that theoretically speaking, because I understand Albany State, they made the SIC championship. They did. They shouldn't have, but they did. Okay, and then you had Tuskegee that beat Fort Valley in the Red Tusk Classic. So I get that. But you have a Fort Valley team that went 8-2 in 2022, 7-3 in 2023. You have a Coach Gibbs that has shown that he can coach. We had Dr. Payne, who's the athletic director for Fort Valley, on the show, and she talked about openly. So I know I can talk about it now because she talked about it on record, about how we don't have the full 36 scholarships. We hope after the Beach Bowl performance that happened, we hope that we can have some more scholarships and all that to make things happen. But he did that only like 18 scholarships, like less than the amount of 36. So imagine what he could do with the 8 plus 18 scholarships, more scholarships. Imagine what he could do if Kelvin Durham comes back. Imagine what he can do recruiting that Georgia area, because clearly he knows what to do. Imagine what he can do developing running backs. We know Brandon Marshall was a grad transfer from Mercer, but imagine what he can do bringing someone else in. Imagine what he can do bringing other wide receivers in. People got to realize that Fort Valley was number 2 behind Benedict for so long. People be sleeping on us, Flicks. So people got to put respect on Fort Valley.
Yeah. I mean, when you got Coach Gibbs back there, pretty much anything is possible. I say that Fort Valley just has to get over that hump at this point. And maybe Coach Berry leaving Benedict leaves that big enough opening, and even Tuskegee, I think they're in for a down year. I think maybe even that leaves a big enough opening. We'll see probably another down year. Or really a true down year from Allen this year also. So maybe things aren't as competitive at the top side of the SIAC this year, but that does leave that opening for Kelvin Durham and Coach Gibbs down there to really make a run.
Listen, I'm tell you what we're going to do at Fort Valley, Flicks. We're going to 1-0. I tell you, that's what we doing. We're going 1-0. Like 1-0 all the way to the Division II playoffs. All right, 1-0. All right, we the new standard bearers. Like, but the thing about it is, Coach Gibbs, don't take off too quickly. We need you here. All right, we need you. We need you here because you on a couple coaches lists. All right, for some folks trying to get you up out of there. But we need you here, Coach Gibbs. But still, we got you. You know what I'm saying? It's right. Kent Schoolfield. All right, it's Doug Porter. Okay, and it's Coach Gibbs, Coach Sean Gibbs, legendary coaches. Okay, we're gonna make it happen. All right. What's going on, everybody? Randall from HBCU Pulse here. And as a former HBCU student, I know it's hard to find time to cook healthy meals in between classes and events. That's why I love Factor. Factor is America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service that delivers fresh, chef-prepared meals right to my door so I can enjoy delicious food without having to spend hours in the kitchen or swipe to get Nick Calf and the food isn't all that good or always go to Chick-fil-A and spend up all my money. That's not the right thing to do. Factor's meals are made with high-quality ingredients and they cater to different dietary preferences and goals. Whenever I need a low-carb, keto, paleo, or vegan meal, Factor has me covered. Plus, Factor's meals are only ready in 2 minutes, so as a student leader, I can fuel up and keep grinding. Factor has made my life easier and healthier, so I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to eat well and save time. Now, Factor isn't just for dinner. Count on extra convenience any time of the day with an assortment of 55 add-ons to suit various preferences and taste. Choose from quick breakfast items, I love breakfast, lunch to go, grab-and-go snacks, and ready-to-drink cold-pressed juice, shakes, and smoothies. Strawberry banana for me. So head over to factorsmeals.com/CPHBCU50 and use the code CPHBCU50 to get 50% off. Yes, 50% off your Factor meals. That's code CPHBCU50 at factorsmeals.com/CPHBCU50 to get 50% off and tell them HBCU Post Radio and Randall sent you. Speaking of coaching, let's talk about this. So we talked about Coach Gibbs. He is a former assistant coach, running back coach. He won a couple of national championships in North Carolina A&T. They were on that amazing run in the MEAC. Former North Carolina Central Eagle running back, set records. You had Coach Berry that was at South Carolina State, offensive lineman, All-American, went to Fort Valley, went to North Carolina A&T, went to Howard, went to North Carolina A&T, went to Southern. Then he led that program at Benedict College and got an opportunity to coach at South Carolina State. But we've seen a trend where a lot of fans want the celebrity coach. Ever since Deion Sanders left Jackson State. And I know saying Deion Sanders is a cardinal sin when you're an HBCU media outlet. We don't talk about him often. We've left that topic alone, but we're going to bring it up a little here because we saw that instant success in those 2 seasons that Deion Sanders was at Jackson State, although they struggled a little bit when Deion first came in the spring. So a lot of folks are trying to sort of duplicate that success. And we saw Ed Reed come in to Bethune-Cookman. And Ed Reed, we thought it was going to be a cool situation. He was going to bring in some guys. He was going to turn around that program that has seen athletic success. But of course, the drama happened. He saw some trash and different things on campus, went on Instagram Live and showed it. Then he went on Instagram Live again and was very demonstrative. And now he described what was going on at Bethune-Cookman. So he then was released. He didn't sign his contract, actually. They decided to not sign him on. They went with another coach. And then sort of the looming shadow around HBCU football has been, should Ed Reed become a head coach? So like I said, Flicks, we didn't really talk about this on HBCU Pulse Radio because every time we were recording, we had one thing and we're talking about what's going on. Then that Saturday or Sunday, something else happened. So we didn't get a chance to really, truly tackle the situation. So I want you to give just your opinion. Like, what do you think about that Ed Reed situation that occurred in January of 2023? And also, do you think that Ed Reed should be considered as the head coach at an HBCU?
January was a wild month for Ed Reed. I mean, he came in, guns blazing, Instagram Live, already recording. He hopped off the flight with the Instagram Live on. I think that it was immature. I think what Coach Reed did in January was immature. Is not becoming of a head coach at the FCS level or Division II level for that rate. I think that he has to learn from his prior experiences. I think that there's no way that he's going to be able to coach an HBCU football team with the same mindset that he had in January. Although I've heard that he's been on different coaches lists and he's been in the mix, in as far as terms as coaching at this level, I think that you got to take a really hard look at Coach Ed Reed at being your head coach, right? Do you really want him to be your head coach? Do you want him to really lead your team of young, under 21-year-old players out in the battle every week and into a situation that may not be the best for you? We've seen with Norfolk State and Illinois State, things can get shifty and dicey out there when you're out there on the field. And when that happens, does your head coach still have your back? Is he consistent enough? Is he still going to be the guy that you need him to be? So to me, I've heard from my different sources, that Coach Ed Reed has been interviewing for a couple different jobs. He's trying to stay in the mix. He would like to be with or at least involved in HBCU athletics. I get that. But I don't necessarily feel like he should be a head coach at HBCU. I think that maybe associate head coaching or something along that matter, coordinating. But I'm not sure if he's going to be able to bring or put together a good FCS football staff that'll be able to compete in the SWAC or even in Division I.
So I hear you 1,000%. I think that what you're saying is appropriate and is creditable, because I believe what you're saying is that essentially he's to join as an assistant coach, as a DC, so he can build up his credibility after what happened. Then we'll see what happens after that. Right. I'm going to shock you, Flicks. I'm going to shock you. I think he should. I think he should. I'm going to tell you the reason why. Now, it's a selfish reason. That first reason is sort of selfish, but it doesn't taint the second reason. Now, we got HBCU Pulse. I am the lead HBCU editor for Clutch Points. That would be great for business. Oh, my God. It would be great for business. I sort of missed the Deion Sanders train when it came to Clutch Points. We got a little bit of it when it came to HBCU Pulse. If Ed Reed becomes a head coach, oh, my gosh. Business is booming, okay? Right. But I'll say this, though. I'll say that HBCUs, we're supposed to be the cultivators of a second chance. Like, we give students a second chance all the time. I think that Ed Reed has shown a level of remorse, because I know that people have not really heard from him since his Roland Martin Unfiltered interview, which was sort of wild. That was a wild moment. But I think that he's shown a level of remorse that we possibly could give him an opportunity with some significant provisions. Like, hey, you got to make sure we this, got to make sure we're that, got to make sure we're all good. We give him an opportunity, because I think that he would be good for the institution that he is a part of, because what he wanted to do for Bethune-Cookman, I really appreciated that. Like, I don't think that a celebrity is the only way that our institutions can get help. I think that we have to rely on our administrators to be innovative. We have to rely on our athletic directors and athletic administration to be innovative. But I think that if you can get an Ed Reed in that had Shaq ready to donate, that was talking to other folks that were trying to donate to build facilities and all these different things, that has that zest and that zeal to want to help out, but also want to advance their career and build a winner at that institution, I'm all for it, because we know he's not going to be there for 20 years. We know that eventually, if he builds that success, he's Ed Reed. He's going to get that next job. He's going to get that next calling. But my thing is that I wouldn't be opposed to him getting the opportunity. I wouldn't be opposed to it. Now, if he messes it up, that is on him. And that shows you, hey, he'll need to be around. But I think he should get that opportunity, because I think his football mindset is invaluable. Because we know about the whole entire thing when he faked out Peyton Manning, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time and the greatest football mind of all time. Faked him out and intercepted Peyton Manning. Played the wrong coverage for weeks just to intercept Peyton Manning. Imagine that type of mindset being instilled in your players for a program. I think that he should get the opportunity. As of right now, we don't know, as we're recording this, if he will. But I think that it should be entertained. But if you listen to HBCU Post Radio on YouTube, I was definitely against it. Like, I did some videos where I was going in, folks were going in on me about all my different thoughts. They were not rocking with me. They'd be shocked. I'm like, you know what? I think I've had time to sit on it. I've had time to really think about Ed Reed being a coach. And I think that possibly he should get the opportunity with significant provisions. And I'll just say this too, Flicks. I'm a wrestling fan, as you probably know, as you've seen probably on Twitter. And we just had CM Punk that came back to the WWE. So that woke me up too. If CM Punk can atone with the WWE, we can atone with Ed Reed.
Hey, and even with Coach Ed Reed, like how I'm saying, if he's even on your staff, he instantly becomes the face of your program. I think there's almost there's understanding that some of these celebrity coaches, as head coaches, would do a lot of damage. I think also as assistant coach, just being in that room. I think if he's at Grambling, right, Coach John Simon's the head coach, and he's defensive coordinator, everybody looks at Coach Ed Reed like he's the head coach. I mean, from the outside looking in at least, because he's the face of your program. He's going to be making all the clips, the video clips every week. He's going to make the headlines. I think just having somebody like that a part of your program would increase the program's notoriety, just given the fact that it's a guy like Ed Reed. There's been other coaches too, like Terrence Brooks, that was also interviewed for different jobs, HBCU, FCS jobs. So there's been guys that are also in this mix. I think that, like you're saying, I'm a little optimistic to bring in a guy like Ed Reed in, but also understand that if you are trying to bring Ed Reed in, a guy with no head coaching experience, you are on the desperate side. We got to be real. You are looking to bring in something that will gain traction. Because if I was to let's bring Coach Ed Reed to Campbell in place of Mike Minter, everybody might look at me crazy, right? Because you might think that maybe the options are more than just getting a guy like Ed Reed. So to me, I think that Ed Reed can be a very good choice for some schools as their head coach. I think that even involving him in your staff is something that you really want and that could be an integral part of building your football program.
I love that. So let me ask you this real quick. Do you think that we're going too far on trying to bring in the celebrity coach since Deion was at Jackson State? Because I think that we put too much power into their hands and too much responsibility on them, because their responsibility should be to win football games. Whatever they do is extra. The responsibility is to win football games and build that football program and assist in recruiting, building a coaching staff that can help in leading that program, especially if you have a program like Grambling that has seen success, even outside of Eddie G. Robinson. They've seen success. Let's say Grambling is a landing spot. Bethune-Cookman saw success multiple times, in their lineage of athletics. Like, they kept beating FAMU in the Florida Classic. Like, they made the playoffs. Like, they were beating other FCS and FBS opponents. Like, they had a run. They have a Hall of Famer, a Pro Football Hall of Famer in there with Ed Reed. So these are not programs that are moribund. Like, these aren't programs that don't have an athletic lineage, right? But my thing is that we need you to build the program. We don't need you to do anything else but that. Everything you do is secondary. But I think a lot of fans, they want these celebrities to come in with their resources, with their networking connections, to come in there and shake things up the way that Deion did. And I just think that that's the wrong expectation. So really quickly, like, what do you think about that expectation of fans to have that? What do you think about the expectations of fans for a celebrity coach to come in and just change the fortunes of a program similar to Deion?
I mean, I think that's a lot. That's a heavy burden to place on somebody, because not only do you want them to bring in resources, we've seen at Grambling, they want you to win also. You got to win in 2 years or you're done. 5-6, 3-7 is not good enough. 3-7 with the GLE coops on the field and the new jerseys won't cut it. It also has to come with that is winning, putting wins in the win column. One thing that we did see from Coach Prime, his first season in the COVID season, they weren't that good. They just weren't. They were like maybe 3-3 throughout that season, took a loss to Alabama State. Some embarrassing things were going on, but he turned around in the second season. So if you do want that celebrity coach, what is your expectation on winning? What does your winning timeline look like? Because if your timeline is around how Hugh Jackson and his timeline went at Grambling, is that fast enough turnaround for you? Because we did see that Grambling was turning around. They were accumulating a lot of talent. They were beginning to win some big games. They had probably the best quarterback in the SWAC at this point. So they brought in the guys, but the wins haven't been coming. So I think that it is very hard to do both of those things at once, right? We saw Coach Prime do it, and he did it, and it was a very difficult way for him to do it, because after the first season, go in, he changes his offensive coordinator, changes a bunch of the staff, brings in another. It took for 2 recruiting classes to come in for us to see them really start winning. So it takes a lot, and I think that it's such a big burden to put on one celebrity head football coach, given the fact that this coach also doesn't have any head coaching experience. He's never built an actual program before. So I think that we should kind of temper expectations on these different celebrity coaches and not exactly trust that this celebrity coach will turn us around as much as we want them to. I think that sometimes they may not take you all the way to the mountaintop. Maybe they'll just turn you in the correct direction, like our coach Hugh Jackson did at Grambling.
I think that's valid. I think that's real. So let's talk about this then, right? Because you do a lot of amazing work on your social media and you identified a coaching list. Like I always call you a scout. You identified a coaching list of coaches that should be considered for open HBCU vacancies. And the best thing about your list is everybody complains about recycling coaches. Everybody complains about that, right? You brought in some coaches that aren't recycled. They're brand new, off the shelf. You know what I mean? So I want to toss to you. Let's have this conversation about filling head coaching vacancies at HBCU. So as we're doing this recording, Grambling, Southern, Texas Southern, Benedict, Morehouse, Allen, and St. Augustine's are all looking for a coach. Now, this could be one or two things: advisements, whoever's listening to this, or it could be a prediction. All right? So I want you, Flicks, I'm going to name a school, and I want you to give me who they should be looking for as the head coach. All right? So let's start with Grambling.
They already put out their candidate list. They have a couple of pretty good candidates, but I will say I would have went more on the splash side. You know, I think with Grambling, you want to win now. So let's go find a guy that wins now. I think maybe that might be a guy like Quentin Morgan down at Langston. When you talk about a guy that has that certain persona about him, he just has like an aura around him. You know, I got to see him in the spring HBCU combine out here in Los Angeles. Coach Quentin Morgan, I mean, he's won 3 SAC championships down there at NAIA Langston. He's done it. He recruits at a very high level for a school with like 20 scholarships. And to me, I think that this would be a nice move and elevation for him. Also, speaking about this Grambling job, this is a very high stress job. I'll put it that way. And for a high stress job, you need a guy with like 50 wins. Quentin Morgan is now 59-22 in his tenure at Langston. A guy that's going to come in and win now. Another guy that I definitely would have kept an eye on was Tremaine Jackson down there at Valdosta. I mean, I think he did a very good job down there in Colorado before he moved to Valdosta. But now at Valdosta, he's now just made this team in the second year, a second-round playoff team. He's consistently recruited well during his time as head coach at Division II ranks. I think it's a natural progression to come to Division I and do his thing.
All right, so let's talk about Southern.
I think they missed on Berry. I think Coach Berry was the right fit for Southern. As much as I gave South Carolina State an A+ for that deal, I probably would have gave Southern like an A++, just given the fact that he would have brought a new life into the Southern team. I think that Southern, and as they are blue blood of HBCU football, they're looking for a head honcho, a guy to really run the ship, a guy that, you know, might be flashy, might not, but he's a leader nonetheless. Southern wants to get behind one guy that they feel that can lead them to the promised land and get them to there. And it doesn't involve ascots this time. So this Southern program to me is really one of the high caliber programs. I thought Berry was the guy. To me, Berry was the only guy on this list and this recruiting cycle. I mean, this head coaching cycle for them. So given the fact they did miss out on him, I think that now you may have to settle, right? You're going to have to settle with a guy that might just right the ship this year, you know, or the next 2 years. I think that with Southern, they haven't been able to find a long-term guy. Some people thought that Coach Eric Dooley coming back was going to be, the return of like the Messiah type of deal. He's going to get us there. He's done it at Grambling. I think that they thought Dooley was a long-term fix. And seeing as though he's not the long-term fix, you can't just bounce back and find another long-term fix in a month. I think that Southern might end up finding a guy that's a little more temporary that can at least right the ship for now. But I think Banks didn't have enough time to complete this coaching search. I mean, he's out here in articles saying guys are turning me down because they don't want $300K in this. He's putting out every excuse on why I can't find a good coach. I wouldn't be surprised they end up with a temporary guy, a guy that isn't on anybody's list, but might be the most cost-efficient option.
I totally get that. And by the time, we do this and people listen to this, they'll probably have their coach. We'll see what happens. So let's move to Texas Southern.
I think Andre Johnson would be great. I think a guy with that type of tenure in the NFL, that type of resources, and really being in the Houston area for as long as he's been, that's a nice pitch for a lot of recruits, for Andre Johnson to bring a guy in there. I think that somebody that's been looked over a lot is Coach Hugh Jackson. I don't think his tenure at Grambling was that bad. He wasn't kicked out because of any scandal or anything. It was simply based on wins and losses. But you look at the type of players that he brought into that roster, he very much improved that roster. So I wouldn't, if I had to say so, I wouldn't be scared to give Coach Hugh Jackson a call. why not come down here and make a change at Texas Southern? To me, Texas Southern is going to be it's still a rebuild, and it might be a longer rebuild given the fact that they're still playing at the soccer stadium, and they're still working out the kinks of what their practice stadium looks like, and they play homecoming there sometimes. So I really feel like Texas Southern is in this kind of transitional period with football and becoming more football related, right? I think, maybe basketball has been their thing. Now they're beginning to take football a little bit more serious, and you're going to need a coach to help you in this transition period. Maybe Austin is that guy. Another guy that I really like, Coach Brendan Marion, man, down at UNLV. He just spent a stint as offensive assistant at Texas about a year or two ago. He's the guy that invented the go-go offense down at Howard. Brought in guys like Kalen Newton in there, and they end up getting a win against UNLV. So I think that a guy like Brendan Marion would be perfect for a Texas Southern job. Right now, he's currently the offensive coordinator at UNLV. They just went to the Mountain West Championship, and we got to see him showcase his offensive play calling skills there. But I think that Texas Southern could use that type of life coming into them. I think that they could use an energizer type of thing, because their last coach, Coach Clarence McKinney, just wasn't that exciting. From the interviews to the play calling to everything. He was just a very boring guy. To be in a city like Houston, to want to attract players, you got to be lively. You should have some Houston roots, and you really got to put some energy into this Texas Southern program.
All right, so Benedict College, Coach Chennis Berry left a tremendous legacy at Benedict College, and he built up that program. They have a great president and Dr. Rosalind Artist. They're an amazing school that's really surging all around, not just in football, but in athletics in general. So I think it's an amazing school and an amazing program. But who would you pick to lead Benedict College?
Whoever you choose is going to pick up one of the best Division II jobs in America. They're a ready-built team, ready to win today. Options-wise, we've definitely heard the defensive coordinator might be a good choice for him. I've also now heard the offensive coordinator is a good choice for him too. So I think it's all in a matter of to South Carolina State, right? Whatever guys that are not selected to go will probably be on his head candidate search, because you probably want to pull from Coach Berry's staff in order to keep that same 1-0 mindset, to keep a lot of recruits, keep a lot of the current roster together, and to maintain some consistency. So I think first you probably look inside of the program, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. But from there, you have a lot of options, I definitely pick a guy that could recruit that South Carolina area. I'm not sure if they need to splash higher like the Antonio Cromarties of the world to really go into this Benedict job. I did like a guy like Cade Bill down at Western Carolina, but he just picked up the offensive coordinator job at Pittsburgh. I would look interior first, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and then from there make it more of a nationwide search. Because I think that really with this Benedict team, you have such a good program, you got to pick the right guy after Coach Chennis Berry.
But got to ask you about this, Flicks. We almost done with the list. This might take a little bit of time right here. Morehouse College. Because Morehouse College is also in the need for a coach, as they got rid of head coach and alumnus Gerald Witcher. And Morehouse, one of the best schools in the nation, not just HBCU, prestigious school, but the football program has left a lot to be desired over the past 3 years, although they had a pretty successful 2021 season. So who do you think should be the next guy at Morehouse?
Now this is a spot where I think a celebrity hire is needed. I think that Morehouse and able to wake up this athletic program at Morehouse, you're just going to take for a loudmouth guy that wins games, brings in top talent, and really demands the most out of Morehouse. I think that part of the issue with Morehouse is they're not used to winning, right? It's been a long while since this football program has been a dominant force in college football. And I think that it is another sleeping giant. The same way Clark Atlanta just opened up their program, bringing in Teddy Keaton, I think that Morehouse needs a celebrity guy. And it's as weird as it may sound, man, a year later, Ray Lewis don't sound that bad. He don't sound that bad. For this Morehouse program, to me, what they are missing first is a graduate program. They lose too many seniors. And secondly, they need a stronger focus on football. We just watched a Morehouse football team play 6 straight road games to start the season. That's a team, that's a school that doesn't care about football. I'm sorry, any way you put it. If your football program starts off playing 6 road games, literally road games up until the last week in October, then you probably don't care about football. You need a guy that's going to come in and reestablish the focus on what's going to make this school money. Selling these tickets, selling this merchandise from the football program. I think a guy like Ray Lewis might actually be one of your best bets in this situation, because what Ray Lewis is going to bring is not only notoriety, he's going to bring the eyes to Morehouse football program. So I think that there needs to be a guy that brings in the eyes. I think that Coach Wiltshire was a pretty good coach. There were some underlying factors that got him out of there a little bit early. But I think that somebody that's going to bring the eyes to this Morehouse football program is a guy they got to bring in next. So, hey, go ahead. I'll put my tab in for Ray Lewis.
All right, so let's talk about Allen University. So we know Coach Teddy Keaton left and he went to Clark Atlanta. So I'm very excited. You know, I think you're excited as well to see what Coach Keaton does at Clark Atlanta. But Allen University, they just started back their football program. Coach Keaton was there for a minute, really building out the program. So who do you think should take over that Allen University program?
I'll take a look at that Florida Memorial staff down there. Coach Bobby Rome, very good head coach at Florida Memorial. He's been building a nice program. And their offensive coordinator, Michael Jones. Michael Jones was actually one of the best coordinators in their conference this past year. And we've seen from Florida Memorial when they played Grambling, they put up a lot of points, have a lot of yards. This year they averaged around 350 passing yards a game, 200 rushing yards. So he really created a powerhouse offensive team. And that's kind of what we've seen from Allen as of late with David Wright and Coach Keaton at the helm. So I think bringing in a guy like Coach Rome, or even bringing in one of his assistants like Coach Michael Jones would greatly help this Allen program. We're looking at this program is literally building their football program, right? They don't even have a home field yet. It's currently under construction. So to me, this Allen team, they're going to be an offensive heavy team, but some things will not change. You'll still be down the street from Benedict. You'll still be in the SIAC, and you'll still be playing kind of from behind in a way while you're in the SIAC. So to me, I would pick another guy that's also building a very good program, a very strong program at Florida Memorial. Just come bring Coach Rome up down to South Carolina, bring him up to Allen, team him up with AD Jasher Cox, and make this thing happen. Because really, to me, I saw a match made in heaven at Allen last year with Coach Teddy Keaton and athletic director Jasher. So now I think that in looking for another connection, find a guy that wins and puts up a lot of points. You know, he's very similar to Coach Teddy Keaton. Maybe Coach Rome is the answer for Allen University.
So last team, St. Augustine. So we know there's a lot that transpired at St. Augustine's around the ouster of their coach and just different chatter around that program. St. Augustine's has a bit of an athletic lineage, if you really look at it. As a matter of fact, if we want to go back to 2010, the Pioneer Bowl, they beat Fort Valley. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying. So St. Augustine's has had an athletic lineage. They've had some good seasons. So I don't think it's going to take that much as far as from the athletic lineage standpoint to get them back to where they need to be. And there might be some behind the scenes situations that need to happen. But I think that St. Augustine's is an amazing school. They've been growing. I've been so proud of them. And I think they just need someone that can really lead that program the right direction with the right resources. So who do you think should be the next coach of St. Augustine's University?
Yeah, it's probably the hardest one to make a decision on, just given the fact that St. Augustine's is in a pretty bad situation. So I think it's even a tougher sell than Allen. I think with St. Augustine's, look, Cromartie is right there. Okay, you have a chance to just make a big splash higher and wipe away all this other stuff we've been seeing. So, you know, you're going to need a guy to build this program. St. Augustine's going to need some real leadership as far as the athletic department goes and actually building up athletics once again at St. Augustine's. I think that they've been very competitive when they play their CIAA games, but you have to put these student athletes in a position to win. And I think that St. Augustine is oftentimes playing behind the eight ball and trying to get things right. But you look at schools like Elizabeth City State, other small schools around in that area that are playing so much better than you and that are competing, beating Bowie States of the world. You got to think St. Augustine's is a long way away from that, and it's going to take time to build that. So if you can get Cromartie, right? He's been wanting to be a head coach for about a year now. Sign the deal. Don't wait.
So let's talk about the Celebration Bowl. So as we're recording this, Celebration Bowl is going to be occurring on Saturday. Is the matchup that I wanted after I saw North Carolina Central lost. FAMU and Howard. Okay, the Hollywood Bowl is what I call it. And shout out to Ariel, our co-host, course for the show. She texted me and she was like, "Congratulations on getting the celebration bowl that you wanted." I'm like, "Thank you." You know what I'm saying? Because she wanted North Carolina Central and FAMU. So I was like, you know what? I want FAMU and Howard. So we got that. You have a Howard team that competed against Northwestern. They competed against Eastern Michigan. They beat North Carolina Central. They've shown the proficiency to score. They have an amazing running back room. They have Kenny Gallup and Anik Dankwa. Like, they have so many amazing players around that team, and they've shown that they can compete. But FAMU just seems to be a totally different team and a different juggernaut, and they've wanted to get the Celebration Bowl win since 2019 when they should have made it instead of North Carolina A&T, which Ariel knows how I feel about that one. So, Flicks, I want you to tell me, who do you think wins this matchup and why?
Oh, man, it's going to be a really good matchup. I will say, I think FAMU actually takes this game. I think Florida A&M could run away with it. Part of it is Quinn Williams, man. I'll bring it up every week. Win and loss is based on how well Quinn Williams will play. But this is also a very big moment. And really in the Celebration Bowl, there's no time to be a second-half team. There's no time for slow starts. Usually the team with the most momentum ends up winning the game. Last year, we saw a back-and-forth affair where the team with the ball last won the game. But I think in this year's rendition of it, we might see something closer to Jackson State, South Carolina State, where one team simply takes over using a lot of physicality, playing fast, playing hard. And really, this Florida A&M team has looked so good this season. It's been so hard to stop this team. We saw Prairie A&M honestly look hapless out there in that SWAC championship, to where they almost put their hands up and go, well, we tried everything. We just can't get it right. So to me, in this game, I think Howard has an excellent team defensively and offensively. I think that if Quinn Williams doesn't get things going early, giving the ball to Casey Hawthorne, moving the ball again to the edge, getting it to Eden James, if these things don't happen, I don't think Florida A&M is going to play with their food. I really feel like this Florida A&M team is on a mission this season. They've had tunnel vision. We even saw them almost beat a very good USF team at their place. So I think that this edition of Florida A&M is a very senior-heavy team that is very mature. And I think we're going to see a Florida A&M team that looks like they've been to the Celebration Bowl before, right? These past 2 years, they have been that close to making a Celebration Bowl bid. But instead, they made it to the FCS playoffs. They've gotten that experience against Southeastern Louisiana. Instead, they've been at home watching Jackson State. I think that this Florida A&M team has been waiting for this moment, and this is one of the biggest moments in these guys' careers. We're going to see the end of great careers by Jeremy Musa, guys like Marcus Riley, John Marie Shareed. These guys this is a legacy-building game here. You know, I think that before the season, my dream matchup with North Carolina Central and Florida A&M. The fact that we're getting Howard and FAMU, I'm not really let down, especially after seeing Central and their performance in the playoffs. I think that Howard was a team that should have made it. This is the same Howard team that put up 50 points on North Carolina Central. I think that they absolutely deserve to be here. I think at the end of the day, this game may go down as maybe a 34-21 type matchup. I think that Howard may not be able to get things going throughout the game and fall behind, and FAMU cruises to a nice victory.
I feel that. So, first of all, I want to say that this is great for both programs because they're going to get the opportunity to showcase the talent that they have on both of those teams. I think that you have a Kenny Gallup that I think could easily be a draft pick because we know that out of HBCUs, a lot of NFL teams, they like the defensive players. And I think you look at Kenny Gallup, I think he fits all of the measurables, the talent, the skill. So I think this could be a great showcase for him on such a big platform of ABC in a big spot such as a Celebration Bowl. I think that for Marcus Riley and Jerry Musa and a lot of those players that are going to be graduating really soon, or have graduated, because we know that graduation is going to be on Friday before the Celebration Bowl. So some of them might graduate on Friday, and then Saturday they're playing. So, you know, we don't know, but I think it's going to be just great to see them get that spotlight because I believe both programs and their players really deserve it. And I know that these are two big brands within the space. And I think you're going to see a lot of celebrities that went to these institutions, a lot of support in that way. So I think that just culturally is going to be amazing. And that's why I clamor for it. I think the football fit is amazing. I just think just what surrounds it, especially in Atlanta. Then you have the band of the year that's going to be on Friday. I think it's just going to be amazing. Just the hype surrounding this celebration mode weekend. Probably the best of all time. But Flicks, I got to be honest with you, man. I got to be honest with you. I'm torn, man. Because I'll tell you the reason why I'm torn. Okay, like outside of Fort Valley, Fort Valley is my school, man. But my two dream schools is FAMU and Howard, man. I'm not just making this up, like literally. Like when I was in 7th grade, I really started thinking about college. And it was FAMU and Howard because both of them had amazing mass comm programs. I used to watch Jay Murphy, he's a big DJ now. Jay Murphy and his crew at WHUR at the radio station. I would watch their vlogs and them do their radio show. And then FAMU being not that far from Macon, Georgia. I want to go down there. I'm like, man, but I found out that Fort Valley was in the area. I knew about Fort Valley, but it clicked. Oh, there's an HBCU in my community. So that was what I aspired for because I'm like, I don't really want to leave Georgia like that. But I got a lot of love. I root for FAMU. Howard gave us this opportunity, man. We're on their radio station, man, Sirius XM. And, I've always wanted to be on the radio. And Howard and Ms. Vicky Saunders and Brittany Riddle and the team there, they gave it the opportunity. But FAMU, man, they've always been tapped in with HBC posters, just like from me, my college ambitions to my career ambitions, like to the support that both institutions have given me. I am torn. I really am. I'm afraid to say what I think is going to happen because I will be wearing a Howard University jacket from Tones of Melanin on Saturday. You know what I'm saying? I got it. It came in and it fits. Okay, it fits. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I really don't know. I'm torn because even from a football standpoint, Howard got talent, man. But FAMU has talent too. And FAMU is not your run-of-the-mill, quote-unquote, swag school where they swear all they care about is offense. They just like the pretty offense. No, FAMU has some thumpers, man. Like they can match up. They'll match up with USF, man. So it's not like they're just they like just throw passes. Like no, they got some guys. So this is not like this is like Jackson State versus no. FAMU got it. So Flicks, you ready? I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. Man, I will try. Now I'm wearing my Howard jacket on Saturday, but I think FAMU wins. I think FAMU's gonna win, man. They're gonna win it for the SWAC. They're gonna win it for the SWAC, man. Like I think that it will be a close game. I think it's gonna be a defensive game. I think it's gonna be maybe like a defensive battle. It's gonna be 24-21, something along those lines, like nothing too crazy, maybe even less than that, but it's just going to be intense. We might see a 2016 Celebration Bowl type of vibe, where it was just like 10-9, like a field goal. Like I just really think this is going to be like that because Howard's defense is nothing to play with and FAMU's defense is nothing to play with. I want to see what Jeremy Musa does. I think Musa is an amazing quarterback. He makes some very interesting decisions in the pocket often, to be 100% honest, but I think that FAMU is very equipped for this. I think that they're the better team. Honestly, really do. I don't think it's demonstrative. I think that Howard is right there. Like if we're talking about a video game rating, Flicks, I think if FAMU is a 93, Howard's a 90. You know what I'm saying? Like, you pick the all-time team, they're a 90. So, but I just think that FAMU has a little bit more. And I think that just based on what I've seen of their dominance in the SWAC, I think that they're equipped to take on a Howard team that's likely going to try to run the ball with Eden, James, and Hunter. So I think that FAMU is more equipped. And like you said, Quinn Williams and Ariel has been talking about this a lot all this season. Like you said, they live and die by Quinn Williams. So I trust Jeremy Musa more than Quinn Williams. Hate to say it. It's the truth. Both of them grad transfers. But I trust Jeremy Musa more than Quinn Williams. So I'm picking FAMU. I hate to say it. I'm wearing my Howard jacket. But I'm not going to be a sore loser. If FAMU loses, I'm like, they lost. You know what I'm saying? And I'm wearing my Howard jacket next show. But because I'm like, I still won. I'm going to see this. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I just think FAMU got it, man.
Yeah. And even talking about Jerry Musa, he can be late. He's late on a lot of his passes. And that's something that makes him look a little more inaccurate. Kind of talk about the same thing with Quinn Williams also. So I think it's going to be a surplus of athletes on the field. You talk about guys going back and forth. The different matchups we're going to see, like guys like Kendall Bowler going against Casey Hawthorne and Wayne Dennis and Hezekiah out there also. We're going to see some great matchups. We talk about skill-wise going back and forth. But I think that's going to lead to a lot of big plays. We're going to see some big plays made by these guys. Last year, we saw that with a litany of talent on Jackson State's team, a bunch of talent on North Carolina Central's team. It got to a point where it's like, who's going to make the biggest play? And we even saw Travis Hunter go in there and make a catch with 4 seconds left to keep the game going. So I think when you put all these different athletes on the field at one time, it makes for a great game. That's the same reason why, just because North Carolina Central didn't make it this year, we still got to see Howard is going to make it to Celebration Bowl. We're still going to see a great game because there's so many great players on each team. I mean, I think a tablespoon of this game would probably be like the Howard and Hampton game, right? A game that's very back and forth. It's going to take a lot of momentum. It's going to take for teams playing in the second half, literally full speed in the second half, right? You're not going to be able to take plays off. We're probably going to see some young guys get in here. And like we see in every conference championship game or even bowl game, injuries, unfortunately, will happen. We're going to see who's going to step up in this game, who's going to be able to make those plays. Will Kareem Burke at FAMU get a shot? You know, there's some young receivers down there at Howard also. Will they get a shot? So I think this game is going to be a coming out party for a couple different players. But aside from that, the normal guys will be the guys. You know, Marcus Riley's still going to be Marcus Riley. John Marie Cherie is still going to be John Marie Cherie. I think that the hype going into this game from a social impact, it should be just as big from a football impact because we're going to see so many great players out there on the field this week.
I love it, man. So it's going to be an amazing matchup. I'm proud of both of those teams, man. And I appreciate Howard for the opportunity that they've given me and FAMU, man. Like I love FAMU, man, always, man, always. Like this one, I'm telling you, man, I'm going to be just sitting there just watching. Probably not even going to cheer. Hey, just going to be watching, man.
I think we both going to be rooting for Howard, man. My boy just got his master's degree from Howard, so I think I'm going to be a Howard this weekend too, man.
Okay, I shout out to him. You know what I'm saying? Listen, man. Listen, I think overall, to be real, regardless who wins in that football field, because we're going to prognosticate about that, the culture wins because in that big spot on ABC, because people were like, "Oh, Howard doesn't need it. FAMU doesn't need it." Dude, look at what the Bayou Classic did all those years. There are folks I've interviewed that said that the Bayou Classic made them want to go to an HBCU, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Imagine FAMU and the Marching 100 on ABC. Imagine the pageantry of Howard students. And just Vice President Kamala Harris might show up. There's a real possibility she might show up and have Lance Gross out there. Taraji P. Henson might come out. All these different amazing luminaries from Howard on TV. You know they're gonna show them. And you know Jay Walker gonna say, like, hey, we got my boy now. You know Jay Walker gonna be talking. You know what I'm saying? He got 10 degrees and Jay Walker, like, dude, this is gonna probably be, regardless of if it's a blowout, if it's a close game, this is gonna be compelling television. You know what I mean? So I'm just so excited just in general for that matchup. And I appreciate you, Flicks, for letting me get through my thoughts, okay? You know what I'm saying? Because I was trying to I don't know, man. I don't know. I was like, should I make another decision? Because I thought about this, Flicks. I like to just talk it through.
Biggest game of the season, man. This is the HBCU Super Bowl.
It is. It is for sure, man. But let's real quick talk about the Florida Beach Bowl that's also coming up. As we're recording this, it's a Monday. It's coming up on Wednesday. Hopefully we'll get this episode out by then. Hopefully it'll be out. You know what I'm saying? Why did previewing the game already happen? Why did previewing the game the Fort Valley already won? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? This is late analysis. Fort Valley's already won that game. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, Flicks, who do you think is going to win the Florida Beach Bowl between Fort Valley State University and Johnson C. Smith? Both of them had amazing seasons. Of course, head coach Maurice Flowers was the former coach for Fort Valley. He left after a 5-5 season, went back to his alma mater, Johnson C. Smith. We then brought in Coach Sean Gibbs from North Carolina A&T. He's a North Carolina Central graduate, but in my interview, he said he's rocking with the SIAC, so he understands what needs to be done. So, Flicks, who do you think wins the Florida Beach Bowl between Johnson C. Smith and Fort Valley State University?
Oh, man, give me Fort Valley by a lot, man. I think Fort Valley might end up running away with this one. It's a nice bowl game to have during the middle of the week. Great for Division II football. But I'll say, man, you got a healthy Kelvin Durham. You got healthy Edmonds out there. Still got Brandon Marshall out there. this is going to be senior night for a lot of these players, right? A lot of these players after this game, they may play a Senior Bowl game, and that might be it for the rest of their career. I think they're going to take this game extremely serious. It's going to be on a very big stadium. It's going to be a nice venue. Everything to me makes a lot of sense as far as making these players comfortable, right? Is it going to be a little rushed bowl game? You just bust in an hour before? No. They have hotels and everything set out for these guys. They have a week of events for these guys. This is a real bowl filling. And not only that, the school's going to leave with a lot of money. But getting back to the game, can't wait to see Kelvin Durham get back on the field and be fully healthy, man. Last time we seen him was maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. And he did what he could, but he wasn't 100%, right? And even versus Benedict, he wasn't 100%. Around this time, this is around the offseason for a lot of Division II players. But instead, they're going to be able to play another game, and a game where they've been able to scout the team for 3 weeks. This Johnson C. Smith team hasn't shown me much this season to be that competitive. I thought that there were better options for the CIAA to send a team down. Maybe Virginia State might have been an option. But nonetheless, in sending Johnson C. Smith down here, I think that Johnson C. Smith really has a lot to prove. They're going to come down with a chip on their shoulder. I don't know how much hype they've been receiving the CIAA, but as far as nationwide hype, it's been very low to none, right? And going into the season, they lose their starting quarterback, Tyrell Jackson, back there. They bring in a backup. He plays exceptionally well. But to me, this Fort Valley State team, the team that should have been in the conference championship, right? They're that caliber of a team. I thought that Virginia State or Fayetteville State would have put up a better fight against Fort Valley. So, it's a bowl game, so teams are just chosen. It wasn't based off of conference championships or anything like that. But in choosing the teams, Fort Valley looks like the much better football team today.
And what you said about like Fort Valley being in the SIAC championship, and we really should have. There was no reason why we should have lost to Albany State. That, like, I always make fun of when folks say, oh, this is a self-inflicted wound. It really was, because those 2 interceptions were costly and they led to scores by the backup quarterback for Albany State. I think that Fort Valley, even just outside of, just me being a alumni and a fan, I got the Fort Valley sweatshirt on. And for the podcast, I got the Fort Valley sweatshirt on, man. And they've seen it before if you watch YouTube. But I think that Fort Valley is more well-equipped, to be honest. I think that they can do both. They can run and they can pass. And I think that that's something that I've seen them do proficiently. I think that that's going to be the story of the game. I think Fort Valley's offense. So I believe that when you look at that game and we see the story of the game, and we recap the story of that game, I think it's going to be Fort Valley's offense was just too dominant. I know that Johnson C. Smith has had a good defense. They've been purporting that their defense was the top defense in Division II. That's Benedict. I'm sorry.
Even if check the facts on that one.
Yeah, I mean, because Benedict was holding folks to 8 points per game. I know the playoff game, Lenore Ryan scored 35, but I mean, come on, like they were when I was writing those articles on Clutch Points. Okay, when I wrote that Benedict had 8 points per game, it wasn't alternative facts. Okay, like it was that's the best scoring defense. Now there are other metrics though. There are other metrics. I'll give it that. There are other metrics, but Benedict, from what we saw of that pass rush, Benedict was hands down statistically and also just from eye test the best defense in Division II football. But John C. Smith's defense is really good, and I'm interested to see how they match up with Kelvin. I think Kelvin's going to go out there with something to prove because of how the Albany State game went and the Benedict game. I think that Benedict game might have gone a tad bit different had Kelvin been healthy. I'm not saying that Fort Valley would have won. Benedict was really good, but I think that would have been a closer contest than we saw if Kelvin was healthy. But Kelvin healthy, he's rested up. He's at times sort of sit with that Albany State situation. So I think he's ready to go. I think Corinthians Atman is going to be ready to go. Brandon Marshall, I think he's going to have a day. Because even against Benedict, if he had a day against Benedict, he was the best player on that field against Benedict. We watched that game on your live stream. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he was the best player against Benedict, I think against John C. Smith, he's going to be exceptionally great. So I think Fort Valley wins this game. We atone for the loss in the Pioneer Bowl to St. Augustine's December 4th, 2010. I looked it up. You know what I'm saying? 20-9. You know what I'm saying? We gonna give them 40-3. All right, we gonna double what we lost by, and we gonna cut down by what they want.
Revenge.
Revenge. We might give them 80 at this point. You know what I'm saying? We might dial it up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So we got that. That's going to be on HBCU Plus on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. It also going to be on your TV too. Impact Network. Check your local listings. I got YouTube TV, so I'm going to watch HBCU Plus, okay? Because YouTube TV sort of lit. You know what I mean? I got Sunday Ticket. You know what I mean? I'm out here doing my thing, working man. You feel me? I got my Apple Watch and I got YouTube TV. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to happen.
Get that.
So Flicks, great show, final show for Sirius XM. We're gonna be back in January. And Flicks, I appreciate you coming in, man. Ariel wasn't able to make it, but man, we really appreciate you for just your insight and letting us know what's going on, especially the coaching list, man. So let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man. And yeah, you can find me on social media on Twitter and Instagram at Kelly Flicks, and also on YouTube, man, at Laceup Podcast Network. You can check me out there. Can't wait to get in all these games, and off season is happening, man. Got to stay up to date.
Most definitely. And thank you, everybody, the SiriusXM family, for listening on SiriusXM Channel 142 HBCU Pulse Radio. Started on January the 6th, 2023. And we've been rocking through it all. A crazy sports season. So much that went on in the spring. Of course, the summer, we had some great interviews. College Hill in the building, a lot of amazing stuff. And we're going to be back with so much more in 2024. So thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, we'll see you on the other side.
Like what you hear?
Yeah.
Subscribe to HBCU Pulse Radio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, head to HBCUPulse.com to stay up to date on what's going on in the HBCU community. Thank you for listening to HBCU Pulse Radio.